All right, hey guys, just kind of want to introduce my new friends here. We got Jennifer and Dan on, and they are part of Pay Down Debt Solutions, another YouTube channel that I found that really, basically velocity banking, and I think you guys nail it. We've kind of been emailing back and forth for a while, and the way I think is, I might teach something one way, and someone else teaches another way. I just kind of want to bring this to our viewers that, I found this couple that really they both make videos. They both do an awesome job. We both kind of are saying and teaching the same types of things, but they teach it a little bit differently than I do. So just kind of want to introduce them to everyone, and yeah, appreciate you guys coming on here and doing a little interview here, and so we can figure out some more about you and hopefully spread the word of velocity banking and getting out of debt and helping people, achieve personal freedom and just getting out of that grip of the bank. So, yeah, welcome. Thanks, guys. How'd you guys get into this? What's your story?
Go ahead.
Well, so I've been I was in the banking industry for many years, right? And so when I had my son, I realized that I'm working, 60 hours a week. I'm, grinding for another corporation, doing something for somebody else. And, I really just, I was tired of it. I didn't want to do it. And Dan had worked for the car companies for years. And then he left to, start his own business. Now, Dan's background, he's actually been a business owner since he was like a kid. So, Dan, if you want to tell him a little bit about, you in the boat business, right?
Oh yeah, I'm the youngest of four boys, and two of my older brothers were always starting their own businesses. So when I was a teenager, I worked for them, and one of them graduated college, so I took his company over, and it was restoring yachts in Southeast Michigan. So I started really young, and then I didn't age out of that. I started interning at Chrysler as an engineer in the summers, way back when it was still Chrysler, even before the Germans took over, Daimler took over. So anyway, I did that for years. It was enjoyable, but there was no life. I was an engineer in a factory because I don't even know how I'm sitting in an office now. Probably because I'm older now, but when I was younger, I couldn't sit still. I couldn't sit in an office. I wanted to be out on the floor where all the action was. And I did it, and the recession hit. I took the buyout because I realized we were never going to have a family. We were never going to do anything. I got one weekend off a month.
Really?
And I worked minimum 10 hours a day.
No kidding. Yeah, that's
Oh,
great.
yeah. So I left that. I took the buyout, and then I bought another business. I actually bought a snacks franchise,
Yeah.
and we ran that. I ran it for maybe 9 years. And then we had a second kid coming, and we didn't want to have it in daycare or anything like that. So Jen quit her job. She took that business over to run that business. And I started actually the third generation family business of being a general contractor. My
Okay.
grandpa my dad did it with him. Two of my older brothers are general contractors. They're also, one's a licensed structural engineer architect. The other's got a degree in finance, but they're both contractors. And I started contracting. I still contract now. I just don't do it as much anymore. I mostly just do it now for friends and family, and that keeps me pretty busy.
Sure. Sure. So you've kind of always had the entrepreneurial itch in your family, in your life, huh?
Yes, in my family, the best way to put it is we don't play well with others. We we uh we were never like we don't have that military thing where you respect the rank, not the man.
Right.
My family, we don't have that. You got to be smarter, harder working, and better at it than we do. Or I can't just respect you because you have manager in front of your name.
Right.
So I did fine in the corporate world, but it was never for me. I couldn't. I just can't. I can't fundamentally respect someone who I can respect them knowing their job and doing their job, but I can't respect them when they come trying to help me with my job. I know my job.
Push you with yours and try to make you better, even though I've
Right.
worked with a couple
Right.
idiots in my life too.
And
I
you're an
get
engineer
that.
that knows there's
I think
plenty
we
of
all
good.
have.
Yeah, you're an engineer. You get it. Like there's plenty of good businessmen out there, but like you stay on the business side of it. I'm an engineer. This is not just what I am. This is who I am.
Exactly.
Oh
Yep.
yeah. So I jumped at the chance to take the buyout to leave and then, have my own business again. And then the kid forced us into two new businesses. Well, her into a new business from banking into running that business, which we sold 3 years ago now. I think it was 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
ago.
Right.
Right about that. And then we settled all that. We settled as many debts as we could, and then we were still having trouble. And we did a long phone interview with a bankruptcy attorney and answered, dozens and dozens and dozens of questions. And I don't know if you've gone through it, if you ever talked to anyone, it really is financially devastating. I think people just put a brave face on and focus on the future when they tell you about it.
Yeah.
But when he really goes over the nitty gritty and what will absolutely happen, what you can avoid, and where you're going, it just didn't seem like a good idea. And then Jen actually found velocity banking, and that's how we first were introduced to it.
So
Yeah,
I just want to hold on, or I'll pause you there real quick, because a lot of people think, oh, you're a business owner, that automatically means you're a millionaire. So that means that's not how it goes.
No.
Don't we wish?
No,
Right?
what's funny is even big businesses, maybe not a company like Chrysler, but when I was at Chrysler, we had suppliers go bankrupt. And one supplier simply went bankrupt because they hired a guy who was in charge of invoicing clients, and he was 140 million behind, and the company went insolvent almost overnight because he didn't send out invoices on time.
You have to think of it too, like your general practitioners, like your doctor, right? Their job is to take care of patients, and that's what they're good at, but they're not taught in school how to run a business. So we run across doctors all the time, Kyle, that they don't know how to run their own finances. They start a practice and then they're in trouble, like they're in big trouble because they don't know how to run it. And so, and we resonate with those people because running your own business doesn't mean that you know everything about finances. And I came from the financial world and I still didn't get it the way I get it now, right? So, and we started a bunch of business and we started a lot of them at the same time. And we probably shouldn't have done it, as fast as we did. That probably led to some of our, our struggle with payments. But at the end of the day, when you sit down with a bankruptcy attorney and you realize what it all encompasses and what you're going to go through, it's not like it used to be, 15 years ago, let's say, where people could just, hey, I'm going to go bankrupt and then I'm going to like get everything bigger, better, faster. And that's what people did remember 2008 when everybody was ditching mortgage their homes and they were buying a bigger house, and all of that, and they were walking away. And at the time I thought it was terrible, but then you are faced with a situation where you're like, man, they did it. Maybe we could do something like that and hang on to the cash we have and not have to, get rid of it all, because there were situations where people were able to do that. And so you kind of think that that's maybe what you can do if you have to. That's not the same. It doesn't work that way anymore. And so, and then I came across velocity banking and I thought, and I got it really fast because I understand how credit cards work and how, lines of credit work, where I think a lot of people will struggle with that because they don't come from a financial background. So when you have an idea of what these tools are and how they work, you realize, oh, it's like a light bulb went off. And I was like, why weren't we doing this? And I said, Dan, look at this. And he looks at me and he's like, Jen, that's a shell game. That's just a shell game. And I'm like, I know it looks like a shell game, but it's really not. And so he sat there. I'm like, will you watch this? So he looks at it for like 3 minutes and he looks up at me and he goes, holy crap. He's like, you're right. But you really think it's a shell game until you actually sit down and realize it is a way of reorganizing and changing what you're doing. You have the same amount of money. Everything that comes in is the same, right? You're just reorganizing it and changing it up, and that's all it takes. But you have to understand it. And I think that's what kind of led us down this path. And that was a couple of years ago, right? So we ended up getting ourselves out, and then we were talking before we started our channel. And we're like, why aren't more people doing this? Like, we didn't see anything out there to make it really simple for people. And we thought, is there a way we could make this easier? And so we just kind of started the channel just to see what kind of interest people would have. And so, me, I'm always busy. Like I've got my hands in all sorts of different things because I'm kind of a go kind of person. So, and I have an affiliate marketing business. I do all these things, right? And so I decided, let's just start this channel. So little did I know like what a big animal it was, but it's been great, and I love it. And the comments are great. The people are great, and helping people every day. Like seriously, I can't tell you how many people are like, we are so thankful. Thank you so much for doing this. Like, we didn't know where to turn. We didn't know what to do. And so that is like, it's heartwarming, and like, seriously, it almost brings me to tears sometimes because I'm like, I know how you feel. I know what you're going through. And so it's so cool to be able to help people that way. It really is.
In case you can't tell, Jen's the gas in the relationship. I'm more the brakes. If you wonder why I keep looking down, it's because I'm not exact. This is only the first real interview I've given my entire life.
Is
Three
it?
older brothers, dad was an engineer, all their friends and family and stuff. I always had a job waiting for me,
Right.
Because they knew somebody.
Oh yeah.
I worked hard, didn't ruin the family name.
Yep.
I
Yep.
kept getting chances. Yeah. So this is actually the first real interview I've ever given. So it's mildly uncomfortable
I'm honored.
to
Thank
me.
you.
But we're living
Great.
this life. We're grinding like everyone else, but we're also entertained by it.
Yeah.
So there was no big, you know, she came up with the idea, hey, we should put this online. I'm like, meh, who's going to want to see this? But at the same time, well, let's see. Let's
Why
try
not?
it.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Right. There's no reason not to. Just
Yep.
because I'm uncomfortable doing it, I'm uncomfortable doing all kinds of stuff.
That's how we grow, right? Make yourself
Yeah.
uncomfortable with something new every day. That's what I try to
Oh,
do.
yeah.
I get it.
That was the last thing she said to me before the Zoom call this meeting started. She's like, you're going to do lots of uncomfortable things. Just keep going. Like, I'm
That's
too
right.
old for new and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
teach your kids that though too, right? You have to, as uncomfortable
Yeah.
as it is for any kind of change, if you don't do it yourself, you're never going to
Yeah.
teach your kids. Like now it is a priority of ours to teach our kids about money because I realized even though my parents are like, save, 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 you got to save. And I'm like, okay, I'll save. But that may or may not do you any good depending on the situation you're in, right? So if you had a lot of debt out there, saving money you go backwards. You really do
Oh,
go
yeah.
backwards if you don't hammer it out and get rid of it faster, than you would any other way. And then you can start saving, then you can start investing. And I know you're into infinite banking, which is phenomenal. Like that is incredible. And so I don't know if I'll ever go there with this channel or not. Maybe I will someday, but really, I really am focused on velocity banking and teaching people there is another way. I am not about the traditional banks anymore. I worked for a bank. I, ran a bank. I ran my own branch, right? But I realize they do hold us down. They do hold us back. And they're the ones making the money. We're not making the spread. So why not make the spread yourself if you can someday, right? Why not? And that's what infinite banking really is.
It's probably, and you can probably speak of this. It's not the friendly banker. Some of my best friends are, bankers, and they're great people, and they're
Yep.
so happy to see you when you walk into the branch. But it's just the system that we're all in and part of, and how it does just keep you down so
Oh, yeah.
so
And
bad.
It
it's,
is the system for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, call it whatever you want. Brilliant marketing, social conditioning. Even
Right.
when we first started, I sold that other business. I sold it for a hell of a profit. The snacks franchise I owned,
Yeah.
and I held on to that money even though we had tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Actually, we had over $100,000 in debt. I just held on to it because that money was like a security blanket.
Right.
As long as I had the money, the bank is okay. Even though I'm losing $3,000 a month in interest across two businesses.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I was doing velocity banking in my business without realizing she was running everything through a credit card because it's so much easier.
Yeah.
Other than paying like subcontractors with a check. So I was already doing it. Any money came in, I put it all right on the credit card. If I didn't have a household bill to pay, I needed the cash, it went right on my credit because I was already doing it. But then I shut the money supply off and pumped the brakes on it all and slowed way down. So then I didn't have the same flow. So I was already doing it before even realizing it.
Yeah.
But I held on to all that money. And then once I kind of got not used to, but we got a little further in doing the strategy. And I'm like, yeah, why am I sitting on that money? It's barely earning any interest annually. The way I sold that route. So then we took it, paid off huge chunks. And we had one big chunk yet that we're still working. We're doing pay down strategy right now.
Yep.
Right now, while we're teaching
Yeah.
people how to do it.
We live it. I mean,
Yeah.
we live in the system now. And it's like,
Yep.
once you learn it, you can never go back because you realize how much money people you throw it out the way. You would literally throw it out the window, just like with mortgages. And I won't go down that path, but obviously if you don't chunk down that mortgage, you are throwing money away. You're paying for the bank's house. There, you have one house, you're paying for another whole house for the bank. Why? Why are we doing this? Yes, we need the banks. For sure we need them, but we don't need them as much as we're giving them, right? We don't need to be giving them as much as we are. They can still survive on a quarter of that as far as I'm concerned. But
And the part of it that I don't really talk about either too much either is the fractional reserve banking. The banks, if we put in $10,000 into our savings account, they can loan out what 90,000, right? They have to hold back. I think they have to hold back.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is.
I believe it's 10% that they have to keep in, like if FDIC insurance. Everybody thinks it's like, oh, if there's a run on the bank, they think they're going to go and get at least 250 out because that's what they insure you for each account. There's naming stuff and all this stuff that goes on, and I won't get into that. But the answer is no, you're not, because they don't have it. It is not anywhere on deposit with the bank. They are, like you said, they're loaning all of it out. I believe it's 10%. It might be less, but I think they have to keep at least 10%. But that's it. That's all they have. So if something were to go down, right? If we had World War III, right? Something happened and there was a run on banks, we're all screwed. Like
Yeah.
you are. If you have your money there, you're in big trouble.
Yep.
You just are.
Yeah, even if you have a savings account that's paying point oh nothing percent is what I would say, but I think it's
Yes.
like 0.6% interest. But and like Dan said, if you've got you're just so used to paying these bills, and you sometimes we're not even attached to the actual interest that you're just literally blowing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
flying out the
Yep.
window, and it's so
Yeah.
much money is gone when you if you do have 10 grand sitting in the bank in a savings account, it's just so crazy how much more is just leaving through interest when you could, yeah, use a velocity banking strategy and just move where your money goes first. And like you guys kind of touched on, your life really doesn't change. Nothing you can keep. Usually, you can keep your spending habits right where they are. Just kind of
Yeah.
change what happens to your money
Yep.
first, and
Yep.
then the debt goes just yeah with velocity. It goes down fast. Yeah, totally.
And sometimes I almost think it's worse for business owners because you get to a point, and even as a branch manager and a banker, money is like paper clips. It's not a real thing to you anymore. It's just like this paper that you work with, right? So as a business owner, it's, dollars and cents, but you don't see it the same way. And so it's you're almost disconnected from it, and you have to like reconnect with your money. It's hard to explain, but you almost have to reconnect with it and realize, no, that is a real thing, and you have to like learn how to function in it. And then we could go into fiat currency and go that route too if you want to, but but we won't. And it's like investing. Can you make a lot of money in the stock market? Absolutely. Is it real? Nope. It's not. None of it's real.
Yeah.
It's not real. So, and I actually was going to get my Series 7 at one point, and then I didn't end up doing it, at the end of the day, but years later, I just realized how the market it really isn't real. And people are making money on the stock market, which I'm not telling anybody not to, but it isn't actually tangible. It's not real.
Right. Yes. 100% agree. How you kind of stumbled across velocity banking? How did you ever, you guys were in a pretty rough spot, and how did you find velocity banking? How did you guys learn it?
I was running. I'm a runner, so I'm running and I'm listening to like financial channels, and I was actually listening about like bankruptcy and like how that works and all this. And I came across a guy that was just talking about velocity banking, and he gave an example. I don't even remember who it was at this time or at this point, but he gave an example using a credit card, just a real simple example. And as he's talking it through, I stopped and I'm like, I grabbed my phone, I'm looking at it, and I'm watching him do this, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like, this makes so much sense. Why haven't we been like, how do I not know this? Right. And so that's when at the end of my run, I run home and Dan was sitting in here, and I put it in front of him. I'm like, you got to see this. And then, Christy Van's another one. She's great.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
another one that is just amazing to watch. She does an excellent job. And I think I showed him one of her videos because at first he's like, yeah, this is a shell game. I'm like, but it's not. Like, it's really not.
You can't move your money around and just pay down debt magically. That's not a thing.
I think what did she say? She goes, it's not magic, it's math or something like that.
Yeah.
And really that's true though. I mean, you look at it and you're like, oh, this is magic. Well, it's like, no, really, it's not. It's math, but most people aren't awesome at math, so they don't really get it. And then Dan always talks about, he goes, there's math, which he is higher level math, right? And then there's accounting, which is just totally different.
Yeah.
And so you have to learn accounting versus math, and it is different.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I think people struggle with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, great. I got a lot from Christy Van as well. She's just that hometown twang. Like I was going
Yeah.
through the videos, I'm like, who's this? And she just drew me right in. So yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
she does.
check out.
She's
Yeah.
awesome. Like I really respect her a lot.
Yep. And I was listening to same thing. I'm a construction, so I would do bridges all over the place, and I'm driving multiple hours a day, and I got onto podcasts, and someone had I don't remember what program it was, but it boiled down to it was velocity banking before I think the name velocity banking was even coined. And that's
Yeah.
what kind of got the wheels turning with me. That was back when interest rates were really low. And I got a first lien, turn my own house into a first lien HELOC, I think at like 3%. So I had a bunch of equity, and that's what I used to actually start buying rental property. And I would just enough for a down payment on probably a 75 or $80,000 rental property. So I, whatever, $25,000 down, I would repay that back through doing the velocity banking method basically. And as soon as I had enough for another down payment, I would go buy another rental property, and then the cash flow
Yeah.
kept rolling, and keeps paying yourself back better. But that was back in the good old days when you could actually buy cash flowing properties pretty easily. They're tough to find now, but
Yeah, right. That's true.
yeah, yep. So yeah, this has been great. Anything else you guys are working on, you know, these days, or still just kind of?
We are. Oh yeah, we are.
A lot of different things.
So you've got the
Yeah, we're trying to come up with a system to help people do velocity banking completely on their own. And it's not easy. And it's mostly not easy. I don't want to say it's not the technical aspect, but anyone's personal finances, like you might right now think of your personal finances, you'll probably think about 2/3 of your actual personal finances. You'll think of all the big stuff will pop in your head first, like your mortgage, your car payment, RV, whatever you got, right? But then you got to trickle all the way down to every single little subscription, everything. And then you got to try to remember the stuff that you will regularly do. You just don't do it every week or every month even. There's right, like people just keep forgetting. They're like, oh, that's right. I'll do this little side job and I'll pay this much money, but I only do it, once a month for $500. And I just finished a ladies today. I could not help them. They're $1,000 upside down.
Yeah.
And they had about $130,000 in debt, and I was helping them, but I could not overcome it. I tried every possible scenario I could, and I just keep peppering her with questions. Every day I'm sending her an email like 1, 2, 3, 4, answer these, answers. She's like, oh, I got this side job. I'm like, hey, please review it one more time. Like these numbers just like, are you even aware that you're minus $1,000 a month? She's like, yes, I'm aware. That's why we're drowning. She's like, oh yeah, and I do this little side job. It's like $500 to $800 a month. Like that's it.
That was it.
I didn't say it to her. We're just emailing.
Right.
Yeah. Like, that's all we needed. Like a minute ago, I couldn't help her. I'm like grinding, doing all these calculations, trying to figure out a scenario where I could help her. That was the difference. Yep. And I earlier before the interview, I completed one scenario. Now I'm going to work on a different one because she wanted 2 options, based on a personal choice of theirs.
Yeah.
So
would you say that's the hardest part? That's the people I've worked with is just starting. Where are you? No one knows. They know where they want to go, but they don't know where they're at. And
100%.
And then it's just like you can't spell check. You can't really fix your own grammar because your mind's always autocorrecting. They're not remembering all their because that one's like once a month. She doesn't even think about it. That's a lot of $500 to $800 was the difference to it all. Yep. And at least 8 emails went back and forth before she finally remembered that.
Before you actually find the actual starting spot. That's why I've got kind of a sheet that I send to people. Like, if you fill this sheet out 100%, and there's a little slot for everything else because you don't know when you're.
She did. I even put paychecks. There's even a note in there like this is occasional. Anything you do, any money, no matter how sporadic, if it's something you do specifically to get paid, include it. Yeah. I'll do the math and average it out. No, it took 8 emails, and she's like, oh yeah, this was a side job I do. And there's no fault in it. I make those mistakes all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
But we're engineers. We're lucky we fix our own mistakes before anyone else catches them.
Yep.
It doesn't happen very often. Usually she catches my mistakes.
But and so we have been developing something, and Dan has actually been using it. It's beta testing right now. He's been using it to work on the latest, case studies, and I call them students now. I used to say, clients, but I don't look at people like clients. I just don't. These are students of velocity banking, and we're all learning this together, right? So the last couple students he's been using our platform for, and it's been awesome. So we can't wait to be able to roll it out.
We also call them students, because these people are contacting us, so we tell them like, we can't help you. We're not charging you,
right?
And we should, right?
There's a lot of work that goes into it.
A lot of hours at work, but how do you do that in good conscience? Like, we're here to help you. If we can't help you, what are we charging you for? Just to help keep you down, to make it that much harder on you? Yeah,
and it's all the information is out there. In my eyes, it's all there for free. But some people just need that little, they need to email back and forth 8 times to figure out their actual starting spot. Do you guys see that a lot too? People that, I think both of our channels, we do the best we can to put everything out there on YouTube for free. But some people just need that extra little step.
It's a forest for the trees thing.
Yeah.
You tell them, they look at their finances and they see the whole forest, they start trying to list the trees, but then once they're in those trees, they can't see outside the forest anymore.
Yep.
And they just gotta, and I hate forest analogies, but you get it. Like, I think anyone that would see this would kind of understand that. It's like you get in there, you start pouring over it, you'll forget a detail because you're trying to think of all the details simultaneously. And then you take a step back and you go, yeah, I make about $5,000 a month, and then I'm spending roughly about $5,500, but it's a death by 1,000 cuts. It's all those little charges, those consistent little charges for subscriptions and things like that just add up. And then, or a side job you do once a month for $500. That's the difference between we can help you get yourself out of debt, or we can help you at all. And like maybe you should talk to a bankruptcy attorney like we did.
Right. Right.
And that was it. She remembered this morning and sent it to us.
Yeah, like, and I'm not trying to knock bankruptcy attorneys, right? Because they are doing a good thing for some people. But I think more people enter bankruptcy than actually need to, because they don't know how to run their finances, right? Like, I didn't know what I didn't know. You didn't know what you didn't know, right? Until you learned how to use those lines of credit. So what you don't know does hurt you in the end, but finding it, like, how do people find it? And that's part of us starting our channel. Yeah, there's Christie's out there, right? And there's like, what is it? Denzel Rodriguez or something. And there's a couple others, but my thought was I wanted to like really focus on velocity banking and teaching people what to do with their credit cards. You can get out with a credit card. You can do it with a credit card. We started with nothing but credit cards because, and I've told this before, we had a home equity line of credit and we thought it was closed out in a refi that we stupidly did, years ago, right?
Yeah.
We thought they closed it out because they told us they were going to, and it was sitting in our banking for forever. And I'm like, I wish they'd get rid of this. It's like, I don't know why this is still here. Lo and behold, it was available. I don't even remember. I looked at it. I don't know when I looked at it, but it was sometime after we started working down things with credit cards, right? And then I realized, oh my God, it is available. And so it was just kind of funny to me because there's things you just don't see because you're used to seeing it every day, right? So it was like teaching yourself, me just going in there and playing around with it and realizing this is available. So then we could use that to help hammer the rest of it down. So, that's pretty amazing too. And even now, I don't always do the best job explaining things. I had a lady the other day, she's like, wait, I don't understand. She's like, what do you mean you're using, you're going to put all your gas on this card. How is that helping you? You're getting more in debt. I'm like, I explained it a little bit better later, but I didn't do a great job. And I said, you're not missing anything. I said, I missed the boat explaining it well at that point in time. I should have said, you're splitting out your bills. You can put X amount of bills or put these couple bills on this card, these couple bills on this card, these on this card, right? And if you do that, then when you go to look at your available income and your expenses, right, you're going to split them out so that you're overpaying so that you can then use that payment that you have to make on that card as cash flow to pay it down. And so she's like, oh, okay. And then she understood it. So I was like, man, even now, it's sometimes hard to explain to people and explain a concept that they don't really get. How does making a payment work down your debt? So it's hard, and I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, and there's so many different personalities out there too. That's part of the reason I wanted to introduce people to you. That what makes sense to me is what I teach, and probably Dan too. We're probably a lot alike, but then you get on and you start teaching the way you do, Jen, and it's yes, it's the same thing, but it's totally different, and
Right.
Someone is going to resonate with you and not me, and vice versa. And that's why I just kind of want to bring the few viewers I have to your platform, and hopefully they'll check you guys out, and that can help open up or answer some questions for them as well. So
yeah. Absolutely. No, the number one thing we argue about in this and just in our relationship is semantics. She does not phrase or state things the way I stated, and then we'll start arguing. And one else will be like, wait, what'd you say? You said that, like, what'd you mean? Like, oh yeah, you're just saying the same thing in different terms. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Like,
that's arguing about the same thing.
We're not even mad, like we're passionate, right? Like you want to win the argument with us, like, oh yeah, we're just doing it again. We've been going a long time, so it's like that's just it. We just simply stop talking. Like once we're angry about it, it happens.
We got that in our house too. I get that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yep.
Probably part of it too is the male-female brain too.
Yeah.
So, having that, and I told Dan, I said, I don't want to do this channel by myself either, because I think it's good for you to be out here, because there are people that, maybe men look at me and say, I'm not gonna listen to her. What does she know? And somebody's gonna, and they might listen to you, or the other way around. You just never know what you're gonna, get. So I thought, well, it would be a good, way to, cross-check.
Yeah.
And have people that, some people are going to resonate better with him, maybe with me. And then you just kind of maybe can help more people then.
Yep. Actually, I just had my cousin reached out to me the other day and said, okay, I watched one of your videos on debt, but it was like Chinese to me. Could you explain me again? How do I start, or which video should I watch first? I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll make a video on on that. So that was my
Where to
latest.
start, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
That's the hardest part about what we're trying to develop is there's just so many variables. People have so many different options.
Yep.
Trying to be able to, like pigeonhole them into like a certain bracket here or a certain bracket here so they can actually do it.
Yeah.
And it is an engineer. You just keep going through iteration after iteration. We're narrowing it down. I say we're always narrowing it down, but there's any narrowing it down is moving forward.
Yeah.
So we're moving forward, but yeah, it's not easy. Like how do you pick an example that can really fit everyone's examples?
Right. And you can't because everyone's, personality is so different that, I might be a little bit more aggressive in something where, I put my mother in the same spot. Like there's no way she would ever take that kind of chance, so everyone's just the personalities are so different that, the risk aversion or not, some chances that I might take, others probably wouldn't. And so there are definitely options within this space, and it's not one way, here's what you have to do. A lot of times it's here's what I would do. You do what you want to do. And, some people, there's no way they would take that $10,000 out of savings. They have to have that's their security blanket and they're not going to touch it.
And I've got a meeting.
Sure.
I got a meeting Wednesday morning with a lady. That's it. She's got 15 grand sitting in a bank, quite a bit of debt. She wants to save for a house payment. She's already upside down, so no one's going to give her a mortgage anytime soon.
Yeah.
Her debt to income ratio. And I got to convince her this is how many months if you don't use that money. This is how many months to pay. How much faster you pay it off using velocity banking. Then look, if you take that same amount of money and keep going, and the amount of time you left that money in the savings, you're going to save $25,000 in interest, and have 2,000 more in that same savings account by just keep going. You know what I mean? Like, but the money it's not real money to them.
Right.
That's my guess. I'm sorry. That's my guess is what they're thinking. That's not paying the interest isn't real money.
Right.
Because they paid it yet.
They don't, they're not experiencing it against paper clips. They don't see it. Yeah. Therefore they don't feel it. They're going to feel it down the road and they just don't know it. How many times have I seen scenarios where people are upside down and they're going on and I'm like, you're never gonna make it though. Like you're never gonna make it. You have to make a drastic change, and that change could be just rearranging what you've done with your money. But if you keep going the way you're going, you're just gonna incur more debt. You're not getting out of this. Like, and sometimes like you have to like smack them. Most of the time they kind of know that, but sometimes you have to have that hard conversation where you're like, you do realize that it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better if you keep going the way you're going. So we're providing you with options. You can go the slow route if it feels better, that's fine. You can go the fast route. It might take some of your cash assets that you have, but you're going to get there faster. Totally up to you at the end of the day. But you can't do what you're doing now because you're in trouble. Like you are.
You're digging the hole. It's time to put down the shovel. Let's back up.
I just saw that from you the other day. I was like, that's a great way to put it.
Yep. All right. Well, I want to be mindful of you guys' time. I appreciate you so much getting on here. And I mean, Jen and I have been emailing back and forth, and you've just helped me so much tremendously on my channel. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys, time here today and everything you're doing. And I think everyone else does as well. So it is my goal to hopefully send a couple more viewers your way and super excited for this next, what you guys have coming down the pipe here. And yeah, super happy to see what comes of that. So. Appreciate it.
You're our first interview, so you'll be the first one we tell about it.
Right.
All right. Awesome. Thank you guys so much, and we'll be in touch. I'll do this again sometime.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.